What's going on, everybody? This is Cole with Crackasmyle Studios, and I am here with Randy from Zebra. How you doing, buddy?
Doing great, Cole. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So I want to talk about two different things real quick. One, you guys are on 50 years coming up.
Yeah.
And that's insane because most bands can't even make it past, 10, 20 years without killing each other.
Right.
But what's crazy is you guys are the same members over the whole time. How did you guys manage to do that without,
Well, I think, any band that gets past like 20 years has the potential to go as long as it's possible. The fortunate part for us is that we're just all three still alive.
Right.
But the answer to, how did we stay together, period, is, I think we just learn how to accept each other for what we are long ago, not expect any more or any less from each other. And it's like a marriage, we liked each other when we first got together. We got to know each other. It's kind of like you're living together now, and then now you're out playing after a couple of years, and now you're getting into, deep into stuff. You're living together in a lot of situations, and all those are factors in whether you're going to make it or not. How much you can tolerate from the other person. I think even, especially in this climate, political views make a big difference too, and how having the same views or at least being tolerant of other people's views helps a lot too. I've seen bands go down the tubes just over that,
So with that being said too, like the personal tolerance and things like that, but the creative aspect of it too, that's a long time.
Yeah.
To keep that, how have, like, personal parts aside, how has that machine continue to run after 50 years?
You mean, how do we create songs and not get such big arguments about the songs? Is that what you mean?
Not really that, but more so just like the longevity of the songs, like you being able to like continue for so long, and that creative side of it.
Continue creating the song.
Right.
Continue. I think, for me anyway, I'm not. Yeah, I never looked at myself as being like a McCartney or Lennon. And that's really not a great comparison. I don't look at myself as like a songwriter that just rolls them out for the sake of doing it. We'd probably have a lot more records out there if I did it that way, and I could write a lot of songs, sure, but for me, it's always been about looking back and either regretting or being proud of what you did, And so I was always like kind of looking ahead to the future and saying, 50 years from now, well, that's a good example. Am I going to be able to look back at this and cringe, or am I going to be okay with it? So I really kind of took the music more seriously back then, and the lyrics, and if I didn't take the lyrics seriously, I took them completely unseriously to make them just like almost comical, when you read them. But there was never anything like, let's rock out tonight, let's party all, which I did, but I'm not going to sing about it or, wave the flag about it. I think that's the big difference. My big influences were always the Moody Blues lyrically, and then also musically, Led Zeppelin, the Beatles. Not to say that a lot of people didn't influence my lyrics, but I would have to say the Moody Blues, the way they, came across, it was their style in their lyrics that I really liked, because it let the observer paint a picture for themselves. So I try to do that with my lyrics.
So speaking of the future, because you just touched based on that. What are the next 50 years looking like?
Hey, a brain implant from Elon Musk, and Zebra will be performing in a little lab somewhere, virtually. Who knows? You take it as it goes. I love I love change.
Right.
As long as I feel it's positive. I love, not arguing but debating things, and I love people that have patience to debate properly. And I think I would like to see more people have more patience. I think, as an older person now, I find like the communication gap between older and younger is, gets damaged because of the age difference. I mean, I was just talking to a friend of mine that said, man, can you believe what these kids are saying and how they're saying it? He was talking about this chant that LSU has now, at the LSU stadium. And we're all football fans in Louisiana. But, this chant ends up with, suck my dick,
Right.
And it's a chant in a whole stadium that evidently the university was fined or something, that the DJ that they have at the stadium, I call it a DJ, but the guy that, does the audio. But the fans were so adamant they were going to do this chant, they had to let it go, and so it's like that. But like the older people, like, oh, horrors, and it's
right.
like, but it was the same thing back in the 60s, when we were all being the horror.
So now you're on the other side of it and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And one day they'll be on the other side of it, and either way, it'll either be, that it's too, it's not like it'll get crazier. It could get more conservative. How could they have done this? Or
right.
How could you be so conservative? What do you, the wind blows both ways. So,
right.
But it's interesting to watch.
Well, that just sounds like Louisiana football in general.
Yeah, I think so.
So I take it you're a Saints fan.
Yeah, I love the Saints.
So you're in Charlotte though right now. You do know that.
Oh, I know.
Okay.
Yeah, I do
I'm a
realize.
Panthers fan, so
yeah.
Sorry, we got your coach fired.
That's hey, let me tell you, a lot of Saints fans wanted that. I think they should have given him a little longer. I mean, at least give the guy 10 years, before he's fired.
I don't know. I can't say much being a Panthers fan and coaching cycles. But anyway, what about new music, man? You guys got anything coming out?
Yeah, we have new music coming out. We have a new record. It was supposed to be out at the end of this year. Probably won't be finished, but we're going to release some of it,
Okay.
And, a little bit of it is some older songs that people have just been asking us to release. Why don't you ever put that on a record? One song in particular called Direction that we used to do back in the 70s. And so we're going to put that on the record. And then there's some stuff that I wrote with a bunch of different writers during the time when I was doing my solo record. It wasn't really right for the project I was doing, but works with Zebra. And so we'll be doing some of that, and then some new material that I wrote, between 2001 and now. It's been a long time, but like I said, I always want it to be something that I can look back on. So I want it to mean something. So I need to kind of get inspired. I mean, when you get shaken up, you get inspired.
Right.
Like Katrina shook me up.
Now, were you living in the area when that happened?
No, I had a house in the area, right. And I grew up in that area, but I was living in New York. But Katrina really shook me, and I couldn't sleep. It was like for days, and I actually ended up in the hospital because lack of sleep, and so it was a bad experience. And then the 9/11 did the same kind of thing. There's those events where you get shocked, but and this election cycle was so intense, that I kind of felt the same way. But after getting a good night's sleep, I felt a lot better,
right.
About it. Even though you wake up to people still cursing and screaming at each other, online,
Right.
It's not that bad. It's not as bad as one of those events,
Right.
And there's always, that's why we have a government and a constitution, and that's the one thing we just need to have faith in, whichever side you're on.
Right. Well, I mean, it's really weird because times like my grandparents, like my mom, obviously she was very important in my life. She raised me, but then my grandparents were also very active, and they helped raise me when I was a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
And they grew up they were born in the silent generation. So they're 84 and 82, I believe, 82 and 80.
When you
around there.
say this, the what generation?
It's called the silent generation. It's before
Silent?
the boomer generation. Yeah, they call it the silent generation.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's what I hear.
I thought they always called it the greatest generation.
I mean, my grandparents are pretty great. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, there was I think, who was it? The Dan Rather would always refer to, the people who fought in the World War II. But I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're good. Well, he was, my grandfather was born in '42, and he actually fought in Vietnam.
Oh, okay.
But like he's kind of the same way. He's just like, man, there's just too many changes. And he's actually Canadian born, but my great grandmother immigrated to California in '47, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
My grandfather would have been 5. Yeah, so that math's right. Cool, I did math on a Saturday. But like they moved to California. And when he was 17, he dropped out of high school to join the Army, and we talk about it a little bit. And he's 82 now, man, and I still see him every day, basically.
Great.
And we talked about it over the years. I'm 33, spent most of my life with him, and he's just the change. He's seen the changes, and he kind of tells me like, man, this is, things are different the way they are. It's strange how people can separate and get close together and then separate. He was like, eventually it's going to get to the point where everybody gets back together to where everything's just focused again.
And okay. And okay. Everybody's not going to be completely satisfied, but
right. Nobody's ever satisfied, but no. At least it's okay. Yeah, we're not in our worst of times right now, so.
And we got a little ways to go now, because we need to be talking to each other. But there's a lot of people that just can't handle the speed of the change,
right.
Technology wise, and certainly since the '60s, I don't think we've ever adapted socially to the amount of change that comes along. People
right.
just want, and I understand, the want to be, to cling to the past and or the need for nostalgia. I mean, like our whole livelihood, Zebra, is really based on, fans from way back when. I mean, we have newer fans, but
which
a lot
of it is good too.
Yeah.
And it's good too, because at the same time, being a musician in that standpoint, you start out in '75. The first album comes out in '81, '83. Okay, so even at that, my parents at that time were like young teenagers, very young teenagers. So for those generations, and then obviously I'm 33 now, and then my kids, I have three sons,
mm-hmm.
so full custody too. It's great. But my music that I listen to kind of goes on to them, and it's like, do you see like that effect, I guess, with Zebra, like when you go to shows and stuff sometimes? Because last night when I was shooting photos, I saw a lot of people that would have been my parents' age, maybe a little bit older than them, and then I saw some kids that were teenagers, and that's a, like, how does that make you feel, I guess?
I mean, it's great. I don't look at it as, we're, the leaders of that youth generation.
Right.
But it's nice to know that the music, at least can relate to the younger generation that's exposed to a whole different world of music. And, their heroes are different heroes.
Right.
They've got a whole different group, but it's nice to know that they'll come and appreciate it, kind of like back in the '60s, I'm, a little kid, and my parents would take me to see, some old, what I'd call old stodgy, music, but then find out, wow, this is pretty cool. It's not bad, and, as a kid, music seems to be to me like a football game. Like to some people, it's like, my team's better than yours. This band's better than this.
Yeah.
This music's better than that, and because of that, we're America is kind of a football society in that way.
Right. Everybody has that fandom.
Yeah. And it's fun. But when you see a kid come up to you and say, you can tell that they're being honest, that they're not just saying it for their parents because their parents dragged them out.
Right.
Man, your stuff is really good. I didn't expect it to be this good. Those are the great compliments, Or when somebody, even an older person, comes and says, I never saw you guys, and
now
I was surprised. I was really surprised.
I will say last night was the first time I'd seen you guys. It's crazy because, a lot of bands, I'm not pointing fingers at this. We're just talking, between people. But some bands use backing vocals. And some people use the backing tracks. And a lot of the bands from that era have been been accused of doing that.
Yeah, sure.
And with you guys, like everything sounded really clean. It sounded, I mean, it sounded just as enjoyable last night as it would have been like, or as it was like first time listening to the album. Like it was, it was simply like sound wise, it was almost like you just like ripped it off the CD. Not that like there were any backing tracks, but just as clean and technical and professional as it sounded. That speaks a lot of volumes to a lot of people nowadays too, especially the younger generation, because a lot of young kids, you know, the music that's listened to nowadays is just, you know, poking in a couple different buttons.
Sure.
And I mean, there are a lot of great musicians that have come out recently that are actually musicians and they actually play and are very good. But that time, going back on the technology thing, technology is kind of, for some people it's a crutch, and then for some people it kind of helps them out. But in the end, it also kind of hinders talent sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes you know, a lot of people rely on that anymore. And I as a music junkie, as a hard rock, heavy metal, classic rock, whatever you call it, fanatic, I enjoy that the bands that are still touring still play. And like last night was great, even with Donnie on stage too. Like that was like, he sounds really good too.
Yeah,
so I mean,
awesome.
And that's the thing. It's, you know, the keeping that sound over the generations. I think that's another thing too. A lot of these younger kids are soaking in on as well.
Yeah.
So,
well, there's a value to the live performance. And, you know, when we started out, I mean, we were doing covers and, you know, our own music. But if you're going to do a cover, do it right, you know. And our whole gimmick was really, let's do music with three people and let's try to make it good or make it sound like the people that we're emulating, even if they have like an orchestra behind them or whatever, you know. And so with that in mind, that was kind of the learning ground for how we approached our live shows. That was our quote unquote gimmick, you know. Let's see what we can do, but really play it, you know, and not use the backing track. We never really thought about that. And so I appreciate you saying that, because that's, you know, that's what we try. We certainly can't do everything we did on the records. There's lots of overdubs and stuff on the records that we never do live, but people understand that, you know. And so you really want to just get kind of the meat of the song and the stuff that people would really remember. Right. And I think we've been good at selecting those things, whether we're doing our own music or other people's music. Yeah.
Well, I think that's kind of cool too, that you kind of, in a way, you limited three guys to kind of challenge and build off, because that actually, like, that's amazing that you can just limit yourself. Like, okay, it's just us three. What can we create? What can we do just between the three of us? And I think that's actually, that's pretty awesome. And it also too kind of keeps all the extra noise out at times as well, with, you know, like 30 band members, 40 band members, just extra people involved. But that's actually really interesting. That's how it was built out like that. I love that.
And being three-piece, getting back to the original question, it helps in keeping a band together too. Every time you add, every other person's just going to add another element of possibility of breaking up, you know. So
So 2025, do you guys have any music coming out?
Yeah.
And what are you doing with it?
We're gonna release it. It'll be a whole album, but like I said, we've been working on it. We wanted to have it out by the end of this year, but you know, honestly, just too many things in life get in the way, and you just you know, you're a grandparent or you're a parent or you're paying your bills or you're dealing with stuff, and then all of a sudden you just don't have the time to do it, and you need to focus. So, but we're getting it done, and the tracks sound great, you know, and the way we're doing it now is completely different than the way we've done it. As a matter of fact, every album we've done has been completely different than the way we've previously done the record, because our records have been so far apart time-wise that the technology changes and makes things
back to the cycle.
So a whole different way of doing it. Yeah.
Now, do you guys? I know this kind of answer the question a little bit, but just to get a specific answer, are you guys planning on doing any shows next year with the new music?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like actually touring with the album, or just kind of touring in general and then just like promoting the album? Or
well, yeah, we'll be promoting the album. Yeah, cool, absolutely. Cool. You know, we also are working on a DVD, documentary DVD, and we've got one already, but we're doing a different one that like kind of shows another side of us.
Yeah, that's up in Louisiana or down in Louisiana, right?
Well, that's the recording of a live show. For, you know, parts of that'll be used for the DVD, but that may end up just being a concert video,
Okay.
on its own. But yeah, we're doing that at the end of the month. So
Okay. Well, I have one fun question. I try to ask everybody I talk to just like one simple fun question. I try to mix it up. Who's like the most impactful band you've ever opened up for?
that we've ever opened for,
Mm-hmm.
that were the biggest influence on us.
Yeah, like when you got basically like oh damn, I made it moment.
Oh,
Like with a band, like who is that like moment for you guys?
okay, because I want to make sure I'm understanding the question.
Right.
Okay. And it didn't necessarily have to be opening up for a band. Is that what you mean?
Well, I mean, like,
what's the moment that you thought you had?
Well, I guess it could be a two-parter.
That chest. Yeah.
We can do two parts. So
Okay.
we'll make it to what was your, oh shit moment. And then the second one is like as far as like the like your favorite band you've ever opened up for, like
Okay.
the most, like even if it doesn't have to be like your favorite as in like who you musically enjoy, but just as like your friendship and the camaraderie. Like,
So overall,
yeah, it could be the whole relationship.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll go with the aha moment first. That's because that's easy for me. It was when we'd been playing together for probably 4 or 5 years, and we had some demos, and we had been fortunate enough to get some of the demos played on a station in Long Island, but they were being played in a block of time, or there was a song that was being played in a block of time that was devoted to local, artists. And then the program director decided to start putting our stuff into regular rotation at the station and with everything else.
Right.
And so now I'm, just driving home from a gig one night, and then all of a sudden the song comes on the radio, and this is not supposed to happen.
What song is it?
It's Who's Behind the Door, I think it was,
Are there 2 versions of that song?
Yeah. This is the demo version.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a question about that, but
Sure.
Go ahead and finish your part first. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's the demo version, and I've just pulled the car over and just listened to it, So that was like the moment for me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So before we get on the second part of like your favorite band that you've messed or members or that part, tell me about that part. What's the difference between the 2 versions? Is it just like you said the one was a demo, right?
Yeah. So
is there like what was it? There was somebody had told me that there was a release of like a compilation album.
Yeah.
Is that the demo?
They had some of the ones on that album were demos of songs that we had. Who's Behind the Door was not. I think that we used the record Atlantic version.
Okay.
Not the demo version of Who's Behind the Door. I think we used. I'd have to really go back. Take Your Fingers From My Hair was another song. I think we used the demo version of that. But you get the idea.
Right.
We didn't use all of them on that compilation.
Right.
But we did a lot of demos over the years, and they sounded really good, and good enough to play on the radio for a radio station to say, yeah, this will work. So
obviously 50 years later.
Right.
And then back on that other part, bands that you've worked with. I mean,
well, let me don't give you one. Let me give you just a couple of things that always stick out in my mind. Sammy Hagar is one,
right.
And it was on the I Can't Drive 55 tour, and we didn't know Sammy, but we used to play Rock Candy, so we knew Sammy and how good he was, and we were on the road for the second Zebra record, and being the opening act, you're hoping to get sound checks and stuff, but you want to, but you may not, things might not be running cool. So in the very beginning, when we got on the road, we were, getting somewhat of a sound check, at least line checks and stuff like that. But as time dragged on, we weren't getting sound checks anymore, and, our management somebody must have gotten the word to Sammy, because he just came in one day unexpected while they were setting up and, said, what the fuck is going on here?
Right.
What are you guys doing? You should have been set up an hour ago for these guys to be sound checking, and they're all just like startled that he's even there,
Right.
And
Sammy Hagar makes sense.
yeah, and he says, why the hell do you think I even have an opening act? Do you think it's so I can come out here and show everybody how much better I am than them? That's not what this is about. This is about rock and roll. This is about getting the crowd excited so that when I come on, they're ready and they're pumped. Awesome. And you guys are screwing this up.
I bet you had a big old grin on your face in that
well,
one.
I didn't see it. I heard about it.
Oh.
Yeah, so I might not be saying verbatim what he said.
Right.
But I heard about it, and I saw it on the faces.
You know just enough to know what was...
I knew enough what and the change in their crew was evident too. Not that they didn't, treat us good, person to person.
Right.
But they really, like, all of a sudden it was like there was a new respect for the band.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good story, man.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate your time, man.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem, Cole. Absolutely. Nice to meet you.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for checking this out. You guys have a great day.